Welcome back, guys. Today we'll talk about some of the women in the Bible that are rarely spoken about. In fact, some people have never heard about these women. We'll start today with Naomi. Most of us associate Naomi's story with that of Ruth, who later married wealthy Boaz. While this is true, there is a backstory to the existence of Ruth and how she met Boaz, and that is Naomi. Naomi is known to be a woman who had a very sad story. So sad that at some point she called herself Mara, meaning bitter. Naomi had moved from her hometown to a new destination where she lost her husband and two sons, left with just her daughters in law, one of which was Ruth. Ruth finally returned back to Bethlehem with Naomi, and there, through her guidance, Naomi met Boaz. Talk about women supporting women. The next story we'll talk about will be that of Bathsheba. Bathsheba's story is one that is quite controversial for so many reasons, but we will not go into the controversies now. Bathsheba was a woman who, though married, slept with the king, King David, and later we saw that her husband died and she became queen when David married her. For a lot of reasons, people think that Bathsheba was in this plan with David. But I have read that verse over and over again, and I never found any indication that it was a plan between Bathsheba and David. In case you do not know, Bathsheba is Uriah's wife who worked for David and was killed in the battle because David had asked that he be put in front of the battle line. After Uriah died, we are told in the Bible that Bathsheba mourned her husband, but then David brought her to the palace to become queen. He married her and she became queen. Bathsheba's story is one of scandal, heartbreak, and loss, for we are told that she did mourn her husband. And this woman rose above all this to become the mother of the wisest king in history, King Solomon. She rose above her pain, above heartbreak, to raise the wisest man we know today. Now we'll talk about the daughters of Zelophehad. This one is a story not many people know about, but it's a strong story. These sisters contested a role, and they didn't just fight for themselves, they fought for many women after them. Their father had died, and because he had no son, his property was meant to be allocated to the relatives. These sisters marched up to Moses, and in front of Moses, Eleazar the priest and the whole assembly, they presented their case with facts. They demanded that they be given property alongside their relatives. Even Moses wasn't sure what to do about this, and so he consulted the Lord. The Lord told him the sisters are right, and because of their act of bravery and standing up for themselves, a rule was made. That rule meant that when a man dies, his children were to inherit property, irrespective of if they were sons or daughters. The relatives only got to get the property if the man had no children. These sisters stood up for themselves and generations after them. Now let's talk about Deborah. Deborah, Deborah, Deborah. Deborah was a prophetess, she was a warrior, and she was a judge. She was one of the judges of Israel when Israel had no king. Deborah was a force to reckon with. She was courageous, she was brave. So much so that even when God told Barak that he would deliver the enemy into his hand, Barak still said to Deborah, "I will not go to war if you are not coming." In his words, he said, "I will go to war if you come with me, and I will not go if you do not come with me." This tells us the kind of woman that Deborah was in her time. This is the kind of woman that you can be. I'll end this story with the story of Judith. Though not many people know this because this is not in your regular Bible, but I grew up Catholic and so I read this story. It's the story of Judith in the book of Judith. Judith was a beautiful woman, the book said, and because of her beauty, every man wanted her. When Israel was under oppression, Judith took it upon herself, though a widow at the time, and went into the enemy's camp. There she befriended the general, and when the time was right, she did what she had to do. What did she do, you might ask? She beheaded the man, took his head back to Israel, and this inspired Israel to attack the enemy and defeated them at the time. Judith's story is one that people don't know, but I think that this is a very powerful story showing the strength of a woman. There are so many stories about women who did great things in the Bible. We already know about Mary, the mother of Jesus. We know about Rahab. We know about Jael. There are stories of Elizabeth and all the likes. This story is to remind you the strength that the woman has. Though seen as the weaker gender, women are filled with strength, bravery, courage, and the list goes on. I hope that this inspires you to be who you were born to be. Thank you for being here. If you want more stories like this, please comment woman in the comment section and I'll get to do the videos for you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.